This story is titled, My Cheating Wife Secretly Put Our Apartment in Her Name Before Filing for Divorce. She smirked in court, thought she won with her affair partner, but I was ready, and now she is begging. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Never thought I'd be sharing this story on Reddit, but after seeing another dude's post about his cheating wife, I figure it's time to tell my tale. Fair warning, this shit is long, but trust me, the payoff is worth it. I 32 male, been working construction since I was fresh out of high school. Started as a basic laborer, busting my ass carrying shit around and learning the trade. Now I'm a site supervisor, running crews of 20 plus guys and managing million-dollar projects. Not exactly Silicon Valley money, but I make enough to live comfortable and still have plenty left for my gym membership and my restored 69 Charger. Yeah, I know, typical muscle car guy. But hey, everyone needs a hobby. Let me paint you a picture of my ex, Sarah. Imagine that stereotypical hot blonde realtor you see on those for sale signs, perfect makeup, tight pencil skirts, million-dollar smile. That was Sarah. We met at this dive bar when I was 24. I was there with my crew after finishing a big project, still in my work boots and covered in construction dust. She was there with her fancy real estate friends, slumming it for fun. Somehow, don't ask me how, we hit it off. Maybe it was the way I didn't try to impress her like every other guy in the place. I just was myself, a straightforward dude who could deadlift 500 pounds and knew how to frame a house. For whatever reason, she dug it. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Her daddy, this big-shot real estate developer, insisted on a prenup. I didn't give a shit. Wasn't marrying her for money anyway. Signed it without even reading it carefully. Spoiler alert, this comes back to bite her in the ass later. About 3 years ago, we bought this sweet apartment in the nice part of town. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, corner unit with a view of the city. Most of the down payment came from my grandpa's inheritance. Old man was a wise dude. Always told me, Michael, keep some money hidden away from the wife. You never know when you'll need it. Should have listened to more of his advice, but at least the inheritance thing worked out. Life was pretty good for a while. I was killing it at work, got promoted to supervisor, started making real money. Sarah's real estate business was booming. She specialized in those fancy downtown condos, making fat commissions. We had our routines. I'd hit the gym at 5 a.m. before work. She'd do her yoga or Pilates or whatever. We'd sometimes meet for lunch when I wasn't at a job site. Normal married life stuff. Even our arguments seemed normal. She'd bitch about my gym schedule. I'd get annoyed when she'd spend 3 hours getting ready to go out. Sometimes she'd complain that I was too focused on work, or that I didn't understand her creative side, whatever the fuck that means. But nothing major, you know? Nothing that made me think she was planning what came next. First red flag popped up about 6 months ago. Sarah suddenly got super into these women's empowerment seminars. Every other weekend, she'd dress up in these fancy business outfits and head off to network with other powerful women or some shit. Started talking about finding herself and unlocking her potential. Looking back, these seminars were probably where she met the people who helped her plan everything. Then she got weirdly interested in our apartment paperwork. Like, really interested. Started asking about the deed, the mortgage, all that boring legal stuff. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was a realtor, after all. Property documents were her thing. Plus, I was busy with this huge commercial project we just landed. 12-hour days, managing multiple crews, dealing with city inspectors. I didn't have the energy to wonder why my wife suddenly cared so much about our refinancing options. The really weird shit started one night after I got back from the gym. I was still in my workout clothes, feeling pretty good after hitting a new PR on bench press. Sarah was waiting on the couch, laptop open, looking all professional in her work clothes, even though it was like 8 p.m. Babe, she says, all sweet and innocent. I've been looking at our mortgage rates. I think we should refinance. Now, Sarah never called me babe unless she wanted something. Usually it was about buying some expensive furniture or going to one of her work events, but this was different. My credit score's better than yours, she continued, showing me some numbers on her laptop. If we put it under just my name, we could save like $200 a month. I remember sitting there, still sweaty from my workout, something feeling off in my gut. When I asked about my name being on the deed, she waved it off like it was nothing. Oh, we can add you back later. It's just a technical thing for the bank. You trust me, right? That last line. That fucking last line. That's what set off the alarm bells. Sarah was always direct, always a straight shooter. This sweet, manipulative stuff? That wasn't her style. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. But I didn't let on. 8 years of working construction teaches you how to keep a poker face. I just nodded, said we'd look into it, and went to take a shower. But my mind was already racing, pieces starting to come together. The seminars, the late nights at open houses, the weird phone calls she'd take in another room. This is where shit starts getting real weird. Those women's empowerment seminars. Well, I started doing some digging. Called up my buddy Tommy from the construction site. Guy's sister is big into that scene. Turns out these weren't your typical girl boss workshops. They were these exclusive financial freedom meetings run by this shady life coach named Jennifer. Her big thing, teaching women how to secure their financial independence during divorce. Yeah, real classy stuff. But I didn't know any of this yet. I was still playing dumb, going about my routine like nothing was wrong. Wake up at 4:30 a.m., hit the gym, work my ass off at the construction site, come home to my increasingly distant wife. Sarah was getting bolder, though. Started coming home later and later from her open houses. Always had some excuse ready. Oh, the clients wanted to see the house at sunset. The paperwork took longer than expected. Had to network with some new clients. One night, she comes home smelling like expensive cologne. Not the kind I wear. I'm more of a basic Old Spice guy. This was that fancy shit that costs more than my weekly grocery budget. When I mentioned it, she got all defensive. It's probably from the house I was showing. The owners have one of those fancy automatic sprayer things. Sure, Sarah. And I'm secretly Batman. The real kicker came about a week after that refinancing conversation. I'm at this new job site downtown, overseeing the foundation work on this luxury condo building. Tommy, my concrete guy, comes up to me looking uncomfortable as hell. Hey, Mike, you might want to see this. He pulls out his phone, shows me a picture his girlfriend took at this fancy restaurant called LeBlanc, or some pretentious shit like that. There's Sarah, all dressed up in a tight black dress I definitely didn't buy her, sitting real cozy with this guy in a $1,000 suit. They weren't exactly looking at property listings, if you catch my drift. Turns out Mr. Fancy Suit was Brad Thompson, one of the top divorce lawyers in the city. Real piece of work. The kind of guy who advertises on billboards with slogans like, "Make your ex pay." Later found out he charges like $500 an hour. Must be nice. I didn't confront Sarah right away. Remember, I'm playing the long game here. Instead, I started watching more carefully. Noticed she'd changed all her phone passwords. Started doing her laundry separately, probably hiding that fancy cologne smell. Even started going to the gym herself, but not my gym. Oh no. She joined some expensive fitness club downtown, right next to Brad's office. Real subtle, Sarah. The apartment refinancing stuff was getting more intense too. She'd leave paperwork accidentally visible on the kitchen counter. Mortgage rates, deed transfers, all that boring legal shit. One day I came home early from work because of a rain delay and caught her on the phone. Yes, I understand. No, he doesn't suspect anything. The transfer should be clean. I have all his information. Yes, I can handle the signature. She hung up real quick when she saw me. Tried to play it off like she was talking to a client. But I'd heard enough. Called up my buddy Jack, the lawyer you'll meet in the next part, right after that. The next few weeks were like living in some kind of twisted reality show. Sarah acting sweet as pie to my face, while I knew she was planning to screw me over. She'd cook my favorite meals, ask about my day, even started showing interest in my gym routine. Classic guilty behavior. Then came the day she dropped the refinancing bomb. I'm sitting there watching the game, and she comes bouncing in all excited. Babe, great news! I handled all the refinancing stuff. You don't have to worry about anything. I look up from the TV playing dumb. Oh yeah? Did I need to sign something? She hesitated for just a second. Would have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. Nope. Did it all digital. Technology these days, right? Amazing. The next week, she started talking about selling the apartment. The market's really hot right now, she says. We could make a killing. Notice how it went from refinancing to selling real quick? Almost like she had a plan or something. I kept playing along, but I was already 10 steps ahead. Had Jack looking into everything. The forged signatures, the refinancing documents, the prenup violations. Even hired a PI to follow her and Brad around. Worth every penny, let me tell you. The whole time, Sarah's getting cockier. Starting staying out later. Barely bothering with excuses anymore. Even started leaving some of Brad's fancy law firm documents accidentally mixed in with her real estate paperwork. Real estate paperwork that, by the way, showed she was already looking at luxury condos, single occupancy ones. But here's the thing about being a construction supervisor. You learn to spot when a foundation's weak. And Sarah? She'd built her little plan on the shakiest foundation possible. She just didn't know it yet. Now let me tell you about Jack, the guy who turned out to be my secret weapon. See, Jack isn't your typical lawyer. Dude looks more like a bouncer than an attorney. Ex-military, built like a tank, and has this crazy scar above his right eye from his UFC amateur days. Met him at my gym, actually. Spotted him on bench press one day and got to talking. Turns out he specializes in divorce law and, get this, fraud cases. Talk about perfect timing. When I first showed Jack what I had, the refinancing papers, the sketchy phone calls, Tommy's photo of Sarah and Brad, he just sat there for a minute, cracking his knuckles with this weird smile on his face. Mike, he says, your wife isn't just planning to divorce you. She's trying to pull off a classic property fraud scheme. And her boyfriend? He's done this before. Turns out Brad Thompson had a bit of a reputation. Jack pulled up some sealed court records. Don't ask me how. Showing 3 other cases where wives mysteriously got their houses transferred to their names right before filing for divorce. All of them were Brad's clients. All of them used the same method: forged signatures, rushed transfers, quick sales. But here's the kicker. None of those houses had prenups like ours did. Jack's first move? He hired this badass P I named Maria. Ex-cop, takes no shit from anyone. She started following Sarah and Brad, building a paper trail. Within a week, she had enough dirt to bury them both. Photos of the meeting at his private gym. Yeah, that's where Sarah was really working out. Audio recordings from their lunch meetings, where they discussed the property transfer. Copies of emails they thought were deleted. Pro tip, nothing's ever really deleted. Security camera footage from Brad's office building, showing Sarah visiting at weird hours. Bank records showing Sarah had opened a secret account and was moving money into it. But the real gold? Maria caught them on video at some fancy hotel, planning out the whole scheme. Full audio, HD video, everything. There's Sarah, in her fancy realtor outfit, sitting with Brad going over documents, talking about how they'd sell the apartment quick and split before I knew what hit me. The best part? They were so fucking cocky about it. Here's an actual quote from Brad. Once it's in your name, he can't do shit. These construction guys never read the fine print. Joke's on you, Brad. I might work with my hands, but I'm not stupid. While all this was going down, I had to keep playing dumb at home. Sarah's getting bolder by the day. Started working late 3-4 times a week, coming home with shopping bags from stores I know we can't afford. Even bought herself a new Mercedes. Told me it was a company car. Yeah, right. One morning I'm at the job site when I get this call from my bank. Some lady from the fraud department wanting to verify a transfer authorization. Apparently, Sarah had tried to move our entire savings account to a new account in just her name. Thank God I'd already moved most of it to a separate account Jack had me set up. But here's where Sarah fucked up real bad. Remember that prenup her daddy insisted on? Jack found this beautiful little clause. In the event that either party attempts to transfer, hide, or otherwise deceive about Marshall assets, they forfeit all claims to shared property and any potential alimony. Basically, by trying to steal the apartment, Sarah violated the very prenup her own father put in place. The irony is just chef's kiss. Jack was building this massive case file. We're talking 3-inch thick binder full of evidence. But we kept sitting on it, waiting. Why? Because Sarah and Brad were getting sloppy. The more confident they got, the more mistakes they made. They started meeting openly at this fancy wine bar downtown. One of my crew guys even spotted them making out in Brad's Porsche in the parking lot. Real classy. Maria got photos of everything. Sarah going into his house, them shopping for furniture together, for that condo they were planning to move into, even caught them looking at rings one day. Guess Brad was planning to upgrade wives. Then one day, I'm at the gym doing deadlifts when my phone buzzes. Text from Maria. They're meeting with a document forger. Getting it all on video. Sure enough, Sarah and Brad had hired some sketchy dude to forge my signature on the property transfer documents. Cost them 10 grand in cash. Maria got the whole thing on video, including the part where Brad explains exactly how they're going to file the paperwork. The next day, Sarah comes home all excited. Babe, remember that refinancing stuff? It's all done. The apartment's secure now. I just nodded, said that's great, and went back to my protein shake. Inside, I was laughing my ass off. Because while she thought she was securing the apartment for herself, she was actually building the perfect case against herself. Jack called me that night. Mike, we got everything we need. And brother, it's beautiful. It was a Tuesday morning when shit hit the fan. I remember because I was at the construction site early, dealing with some supply chain bullshit. 3 trucks of wrong-sized lumber delivered. Subcontractors arguing about timeline changes. Typical Tuesday chaos. That's when Sarah sends me this text. We need to talk when you get home. It's important. I knew what was coming. Jack had already warned me. His PI spotted Sarah picking up paperwork from Brad's office the day before. Still, knowing it's coming and actually seeing it happen? Two different things. I get home that evening, and Sarah's got her serious business face on. Hair done perfect, wearing this tight black dress I'd never seen before. Probably bought it with Brad. Sitting at our kitchen table with this manila envelope in front of her. "Mike," she says, all quiet and serious like she's about to tell me someone died. "I think we need to make some changes." I just stood there, still in my work boots and high-vis vest, covered in construction dust. Didn't say a word. Let her dig her own grave. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she continues, "and I just don't think this marriage is working anymore. We've grown apart. You're so focused on your construction work, and I'm really expanding in my career." The fucking nerve of this woman. 8 years together, and she's acting like my blue-collar job is beneath her now. Meanwhile, she's planning to steal my apartment and run off with a scumbag lawyer who's already married. "I think we need to separate," she says, sliding the envelope across the table. "I've already drawn up the paperwork. It's very fair. I get the apartment since it's in my name now, and you can keep your truck and your gym equipment." How generous of her, right? She steals our apartment through fraud and thinks letting me keep my Ford F-150 and some dumbbells makes it fair. But here's where it gets good. She starts laying out her whole plan, thinking she's got me cornered. "I've already listed the apartment. There's a lot of interest. We could close within a week. Once it sells, I'll give you 10% of the proceeds." "That's more than fair considering." I cut her off. "Considering what?" She actually flinches. First time I'd interrupted her little script. "Well, considering the apartment's in my name, legally, I don't have to give you anything." I just told her, okay, we will meet in court, and left to sleep in my friend's house. Court date was set for a Thursday morning. I show up in my best suit. Yeah, I own exactly one suit. Got it for my wedding, ironically. Fresh haircut. Looking clean despite having been at the job site since 5 a.m. doing inspections. My boy Jack's there early. 3 massive binders of evidence stacked on our table, looking like he's about to enjoy Christmas morning. Then Sarah walks in, and holy shit. She's wearing this all-white designer pantsuit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Hair and makeup perfect. Designer heels, the works. She's got this smug little smile on her face, probably thinking she's about to clean me out. Brad's sitting next to her in a suit that screams, "I bill $500 an hour," looking like a shark that smells blood in the water. The judge is this older lady, probably in her 60s, with these reading glasses that make her look like a stern librarian. She starts going through the preliminary stuff, and Brad stands up, all confident and smooth. "Your Honor, this is a simple case. The apartment in question is solely in my client's name. Mr. My last name has no legal claim to the property. We're willing to be generous and offer him his personal belongings and vehicle, but the apartment and its equity clearly belong to Mrs. Last Name." I glance over at Sarah. She's got this little smirk, probably already planning how she's going to spend the money from selling my apartment. That's when Jack stands up, and I swear I see him wink at me. "Your Honor," he says, all casual like we're just having a beer at the gym. "Before we proceed, I have some evidence I'd like to present regarding the property transfer in question." Brad waves his hand dismissively. "The property transfer is complete and legal. All paperwork was properly filed." Jack's smile gets bigger. "Oh, I'm very interested in that paperwork, particularly in how it was filed. Your Honor, may I approach?" Judge nods, and Jack starts laying out photos on her bench. With each photo, I watch Sarah's face get paler and paler. "These photos, Your Honor, show Mrs. Last Name and her associate, Mr. Thompson, meeting with a known document forger on March 15th. We have video evidence of the entire transaction, including the exchange of $10,000 in cash for forged signatures." Brad jumps up. "Objection! These photos could be anything." The judge peers over her glasses. "Mr. Thompson, sit down. I'd like to hear this." Jack's just getting started. He pulls out a USB drive. "Your Honor, we have audio recordings of Mrs. Hart Last Name and Mr. Thompson planning this entire scheme. Would you like to hear Mrs. Hart Last Name explicitly discussing how to forge her husband's signature? Or perhaps Mr. Thompson advising her on how to hide assets before filing for divorce?" Sarah's starting to shake, like visibly trembling in her fancy white suit. Brad's tugging at his collar like it's suddenly too tight. But wait, it gets better. Jack pulls out another file. "Additionally, Your Honor, we have evidence that Mr. Thompson has engaged in this exact scheme before. 3 previous cases, all following the same pattern. Wives mysteriously getting property transferred to their names through forged signatures, right before filing for divorce, all with Mr. Thompson as their attorney. The judge takes off her glasses, and holy shit, if looks could kill, Brad would be 6 feet under. Mr. Thompson, she says, voice cold as ice. Are you aware that facilitating fraud is grounds for disbarment? Brad starts stammering something about unfounded allegations, but the judge cuts him off. And Mrs. Near last name? Are you aware that forging signatures on property documents is a federal offense? Sarah stands up, probably thinking she can charm her way out like she always does. Your Honor, there's been a misunderstanding. Jack interrupts. Love this guy. Oh, we're just getting to the good part. Your Honor, I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit C, the prenuptial agreement. Sarah freezes. Brad looks confused. Guess he never actually read that prenup. Section 7, Paragraph 3, Jack reads, clearly states that any attempt to fraudulently transfer or hide marital assets results in immediate forfeiture of all claims to shared property and requires the offending party to pay all legal fees. The judge is reading along, nodding. I see. And this prenup was properly executed? Yes, Your Honor. Ironically, it was Mrs. Last Name's father who insisted on it. That's when Sarah loses it. Just completely loses it. Starts screaming about how I set her up, how this isn't fair, how she deserves the apartment. Brad's trying to shut her up, but she's on a roll. He tricked me, she shrieks, mascara starting to run. He knew I was seeing Brad. He had us followed. The judge bangs her gavel. Mrs. A Last Name, control yourself or you will be held in contempt. But Sarah's not done. She spins around pointing at me. You bastard! You planned this! You and your meathead lawyer. Jack just stands there grinning. Your Honor, I'd like to note for the record that Mrs. Gauck's last name just admitted to the affair in open court, which, according to Section 4 of the prenup, is another violation. The judge has had enough. Order, Mr. Thompson, given the evidence presented and your apparent involvement in this fraud scheme, I'm referring this matter to the Bar Association. Mrs. last name. This court finds your actions not only reprehensible but criminal. The property transfer is hereby nullified. Sarah collapses into her chair, crying for real now. Brad's already packing up his briefcase, probably racing to call his own lawyer. But the judge isn't finished. Sarah just had her meltdown in court. Brad's looking like he's about to puke in his $1,000 loafers, and the judge is about to drop the hammer on both of them. Judge takes off her glasses, looks straight at Sarah. Mrs. K's last name. This court rarely sees such a blatant attempt at fraud. The evidence presented here today shows not just deception, but a calculated scheme to defraud both your husband and this court. Sarah tries to pull herself together, fixing her mascara with shaking hands. Brad's already got one foot out the door, but the judge isn't having it. Mr. Thompson, sit down. We're not finished. Then she starts listing off everything they're going to face. 1. The apartment transfer is completely void, like it never happened too. Sarah violated the prenup in 3 different ways: fraud, adultery, and hiding assets. 3. She's responsible for all legal fees. Jack ain't cheap, by the way. 4. And the judge is referring the whole case to the DA's office for criminal charges. But here's where it gets even better. Remember how I mentioned Brad's wife in the earlier posts? Well, guess who walks into the courtroom right at this moment? This absolute smoke show of a woman in a red dress, looking like she's about to commit murder. It's Mrs. Thompson, Brad's wife. Turns out Jack made sure she knew exactly when our hearing was scheduled. Brad goes white as a sheet. Like, literally looks like he's seen a ghost. Sarah's just sitting there, mascara running down her face, watching her perfect little plan implode. Mrs. Thompson, let's call her Rachel, walks right up to Brad, drops a manila envelope on his table, and says loud enough for everyone to hear, "You've been served, honey. I've got all the evidence." The judge, who's apparently enjoying this show as much as everyone else, just sits back and watches. Brad opens the envelope with trembling hands, and I swear to God, he actually whimpers. Rachel's not done, though. She turns to Sarah. "By the way, that Cartier bracelet he gave you? It was bought with our joint credit card. I want it back." Sarah starts fumbling with the bracelet on her wrist. The one I'd noticed a few weeks ago but hadn't said anything about. Throws it at Rachel like it's burning her skin. That's when Brad finally finds his voice. "Rachel, baby, this isn't what it looks like." Rachel cuts him off. "Save it for your disciplinary hearing, Brad. The Bar Association is very interested in how many times you've pulled this property transfer scam." Turns out Rachel's lawyer, who's apparently way better than Brad, found 7 other cases where Brad had helped wives fraudulently transfer property before divorce. 7. My boy Jack had only found 3. The judge clears her throat. Given these new developments, I'm adding a few items to my ruling. Sarah's practically catatonic at this point, but Brad's looking like he's about to make a run for it. First, Mr. Breakru, my last name, is awarded full ownership of the apartment. Mrs. Ock's last name forfeits all claims to any marital property due to her multiple violations of the prenuptial agreement. Sarah starts sobbing again, but the judge isn't finished. Second, Mrs. Ock's last name will be responsible for all legal fees and court costs. Third, I'm issuing an injunction preventing her from selling or transferring any assets until the criminal investigation is complete. Then she turns to Brad. Mr. Thompson, I'm reporting you to the Bar Association today. Given the pattern of behavior evidenced here, I expect your law license will be suspended pending investigation. Brad slumps in his chair. His whole life's imploding in real time. 8 years of running this scam, and it all comes crashing down because he picked the wrong guy's wife to screw over. Sarah makes one last desperate attempt, turns to me with those puppy dog eyes she used to use when she wanted something expensive. Mike, please, we can work this out. I'll move back in, we can go to counseling. I just laugh. Sorry, Sarah, I don't date criminals. That's when she completely loses it, like full psycho meltdown. Starts screaming about how I ruined her life, how she gave me the best years of her life, how she could have married a doctor or lawyer. Pretty sure she tried that last one. The judge bangs her gavel. Officers, please remove Mrs. Court's last name from my courtroom. 2 court officers have to practically drag her out. She's still screaming as they lead her away. You can't do this to me! I deserve that apartment! Brad doesn't even look at her as she's being dragged out. He's too busy watching his wife Rachel talk to the Bar Association representative who just showed up. As they're leading Sarah out, I hear one of the court officers mutter, "These gold diggers are getting worse every year." Final update time. It's been 6 months since that beautiful day in court. A lot of you have been DMing me asking what happened after. So here's the full aftermath. First up, Brad Thompson, the sleazeball lawyer himself. Remember how the judge referred him to the Bar Association? Well, turns out this wasn't his first rodeo with them. 3 other complaints had already been filed, but the cases got settled quietly. Not this time. The Bar Association's investigation found 12 cases where Brad had helped wives fraudulently transfer property before divorce. 12. My boy Jack had found 3. Rachel's lawyer found 7. But this dude had been running this scam for over a decade. Last month, they officially revoked his law license. Permanent disbarment. Can't ever practice law again in this state. But wait, it gets better. Remember Rachel, his wife? She didn't just divorce him. She destroyed him. Turns out Brad had been hiding money in offshore accounts for years. Rachel's lawyer, absolute savage, found everything. She got their mansion in the suburbs, his BMW collection, all their joint accounts, even his precious golf club membership. But the real cherry on top? The DA's office is pressing criminal charges against him for his role in all those fraud cases. My case was apparently the straw that broke the camel's back. He's looking at potential jail time. Last I heard, he's living in a studio apartment and working as a paralegal at some tiny law firm. How the mighty have fallen. Now for Sarah. Oh boy, where do I even start? Remember how she violated the prenup in 3 different ways? That meant she got nothing. 0. Zip. Nada. But that was just the beginning of her problems. The DA's office didn't take kindly to her little forgery scheme. They charged her with fraud, multiple counts, forgery, attempted theft, filing false documents. She tried to play the victim card in court, cried about how Brad manipulated her, how she was emotionally vulnerable, how she'd made a mistake. The judge, different one this time, wasn't buying it. She got 18 months probation, $50,000 in fines, 500 hours of community service, and a felony record that'll follow her forever. Her real estate license? Gone. Turns out having a fraud conviction isn't great for a career in real estate. Her fancy real estate agency fired her the day after the conviction, but karma wasn't done with her yet. Remember her dad? The one who insisted on the prenup? He was a big shot in the real estate world, always helping her get those premium listings. When he found out what she did, he cut her off completely. Apparently, he was disgusted by her behavior. 2 weeks ago, I'm at the gym. Still making those gains, bros. Hit 405 on bench last week. And guess who walks in? Sarah's younger sister, Katie. She tells me Sarah's living with their mom now, working as a receptionist at a dentist's office. The designer clothes and Mercedes are long gone. The best part? She tried to beg her dad to help her pay the fraud fines. His response? You made your bed. Now lie in it. As for me, life's pretty sweet. The apartment's value has gone up 25% since all this went down. I did some renovations, painted over all traces of Sarah. Jack helped me refinance it legitimately. Got an even better rate than what Sarah was trying to get. Work's going great too. Got promoted to senior site supervisor, running multiple projects now. The crew loves hearing updates about Sarah and Brad's downfall. It's become a legend on our construction sites. But the real win? 2 months ago, I'm at this new gym. Had to switch after getting too many DMs from guys at the old one wanting to hear the story. And I meet this girl named Jessica. She's a physical therapist, loves lifting, squats more than most guys, and actually thinks construction work is hot. Been dating for a few weeks now. She's everything Sarah wasn't. Honest, straightforward, appreciates what I do for a living. And get this, she actually reads the documents she signs. The other day, we drove past Sarah's mom's place. Saw Sarah struggling with grocery bags, wearing sweats and looking rough. Jessica didn't know who she was, but I did. Feels good, man. Real good. Moral of the story? Don't try to screw over your spouse. Karma's a bitch, prenups are important, and always have a good lawyer in your corner. Oh, and lift heavy. Never know when you'll need those gains. Edit 2. You guys asking about Jack. Yes, he's still my lawyer. And yes, we still train together. Man's a beast with legal documents and deadlifts. Edit 2. For everyone asking for gym tips, consistency and proper form over ego lifting. Unless your wife's trying to steal your apartment, then ego lift away. Final edit. Jessica says hi. And yes, she read this whole saga. Says I'm a better writer than I give myself credit for. Keep her, right?